Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Burn Within. And on today's show, I have Holli Massey. And Holli has got an amazing story of moving from a background working with corporates. She worked in production with advertising agencies. She worked with many big brands from around the world. And this is what I find really fascinating about Holli's story is, she used lots of the skill sets that she developed over many, many years in her career, very successful career, but changed the purpose of what she did in life and used those skills that she developed to create something new and fulfill a purpose that really kind of resonated with who she was, who she is now, and to really her soul connected with that. So Holli, welcome to the interview, and thank you for agreeing for me to speak with you today.
Thanks for having me, Matt. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to our chat.
Yeah, and you're really making me feel Christmassy with the the white blouse and the red background. I love it. I'm totally not.
I'm sitting over in Ireland, as you know, and it's quite cold over here at the moment. So we've got the heating on at home, but I'm still cold. So I'm rugged up.
Yeah, you're representing Christmas a lot better than me. I'm in Thailand at the moment, in Chiang Mai, and it's t-shirt weather, and I'm actually getting a little bit sweaty. So thanks for injecting some Christmas vibe into the show. So tell me a little bit about your where you were. I know you were working for some major brands. So as brands were working with an advertising agency, and you were working with these advertising agencies in a production crew. So tell me a little bit more about your life when that happened.
So I got into working in film and TV at a pretty young age. I did work experience when I was 16 in a production company with I think we did a commercial for a TV commercial for some butter commercial. And I remember the moment walking on set for the first time ever as a 16-year-old and just feeling like I'd done it a million times before. It was very natural. It was very kind of like, I just knew, it's like I just had been there before. I knew all the roles, I knew what to do. It was very, very kind of like, and I loved it. It was kind of, I really liked art and everything in school and drama. And it just felt like a combination of all the things that I loved. I was fascinated by all the people, by the cameramen, by the art department and the props guys. And so I did that. And then I also did work experience in an advertising agency. And then I left school and I started a teaching degree. And halfway through that degree, I got a phone call from the production company I'd worked with, and they asked if I wanted a job as their production assistant in a company. And at the time, that company was a really well-known Melbourne company. They had some really great directors and producers. They also had some photographers and a photography studio there. So of course, I jumped at the chance. I was like I could always go back to uni if I wanted to. And I went in, and that just snowballed into this career of just working with loads of different companies, loads of different creative people, directors and producers, and it kicks me off on this kind of working in advertising, which was fantastic because I made a fair bit of money out of it. It's really well paid, but I suppose during that time that I was doing it, there was always something that just didn't feel right. And I used to say to myself, you've got a good job, you earn good money, you're working with amazing people. Like, what's your problem? Stop whinging. Like, you're lucky, all this kind of stuff. So I sort of went into that sort of power play within my mind quite a lot. Yeah. And I got to travel, so I got to, sometimes because I made enough money, I'd go and travel for a year or something. So I'd have a year traveling,
Mm-hmm.
and so it was the perks of everything, you know. But there was just something that just didn't feel right, and it took me a little while to kind of put my finger on what it was. And I think really ethically, I always felt really connected to the people, felt really connected to who I was working with. I loved the conversations and I loved everything that was creative about it. But
Mm-hmm.
when someone would ask me what I did for a job, I found it really difficult to tell them that I produced TV commercials. I felt like it was adding to the problems of the world. I was kind of, you know, the consumerism and the imbalance in life, and that sort of paradigm of, you know, the fear-based paradigm that we live in. I just, for whatever reason, I just really kind of carried that with me, and it felt really didn't suit who I was. So I went on this sort of quest, I suppose, to try and balance that out, and found a project in Kenya, in the developing world, in developing countries. I wanted to kind of did some travel through those developing countries to find some projects that I could support through the film industry. And then that kicked me off into kind of where I am now. So that wasn't enough, basically. That wasn't enough. Trying to start that project wasn't enough for me to it's really took, that was the beginning of the unraveling of the layers that I had to kind of work through to get to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So the first step was having a feeling something's not quite right here. You know, I've got all of these perks. I can travel. I'm being well paid. I'm meeting and working with great people. But there was a feeling that something wasn't quite right. And you mentioned that ethically, you knew you were connected to people. Maybe not necessarily companies, but definitely to the people. And this project in Kenya, this is something that you took on yourself. This is something that was from your own backing, or something? Was it like a voluntary project that you did?
So the project's still kind of in action. Sorry, I got something in my eye. The project is still happening. It's a yes, it was. So I did some work with Sudanese refugees teaching English in Melbourne with a company called SAIL, Sudanese and Australian Integrated Learning. And the two people that started that up, I got on really well with, and they asked me to become a coordinator of their organisation. And at the time, I just couldn't do it. It was one of those moments again where here I am, I've got this great job and it's making lots of money, but I just never had time to kind of to put myself into anything else, because it was just so consuming. Working in film and television is so consuming. It is a lifestyle. They are long hours and their burnout rate is huge. And I was always really aware of getting caught in the wheel. You know, I used to have lots of conversations to people that had kind of been in the industry for such a long time and had got to a point where they'd got married and they got kids, and their kids were in college and all that kind of stuff. And they had to keep up, they had to keep the finances up. And I used to look at them and think, you know, they're stuck, you know, they can't make that move now because their skills are the film industry. And if they leave that, what are they going to do? And that always sat in my mind. I was like, I just don't want to be one of those people, you know, that sort of they get stuck that way.
Yeah.
So, but when I got offered this job through SAIL, it was one of those kind of, again, defining moments of, oh my God, I'd so love to do this, but I don't have the time. You know, I don't have the time.
Yeah.
So then I decided to create something myself that I could, you know, fit into my own time. So I traveled out to Kenya with a friend of mine, and we went out there really with no expectation. We had no idea what we were really going to or whatever. We just chose an area and decided to go out there and try and find something that we could support through the film industry. And we worked with loads of different people within the community. We worked with an NGO. We worked with street kids. We did lots of different stuff. And at the end of that trip, we'd sort of done a lot of work with this NGO, and at the end of that particular trip, we were sitting at the airport and we were like, what are we going to do? And we said, why don't we build a film school or something? We had these big ideas to build a film school. So we left. The guy that I was traveling with just happens to be my husband's brother. So he was a friend of mine. That's how I met my husband. And we left. We went back. At the time, his wife was pregnant. So we came back to Melbourne. They were living in Melbourne. Obviously, my husband's Irish. So Zeb was Irish as well. So we both came back to Melbourne, and I ended up getting married, having babies, and then he had babies, and then, our life kind of went off on a different direction. And then just as we started to get back into the project, he died. The guy. Yeah. So he was 30. He had a heart attack on the soccer pitch. So that kind of threw the project into. It took me a while to get back into the project, to be honest, because he was really the first person that believed that project could be something, and had come out to help me do it. So it was about kind of going, okay, I'm on my own again, or, I have to really kind of build this project up, and how am I going to do it? So I've kind of been working on it over the years. I've had builders, we've got building plans, we've got everything's ready to go. So, still going. Going.
Yeah. And what impact did that have on you? If you don't mind me asking that death, because it was unexpected, and you were kind of working together on this project that was a passion. How did that affect you in terms of your motivation to do something else?
I think the way that it affected me was, it was, if I'm to kind of look at it now, I think I was affected by it quite a lot, because in my kind of span of life, and this goes into a whole other kind of part of a story, I suppose, when you kind of, well, for me, when you end up, suppose, working in a job and you know that it's not really who you are as a person, and you're not really living in alignment with who you are and what you're supposed to be doing. And then you find somebody who loves an idea that you have that is really you. Yeah. And that goes away, and there's no one kind of left to kind of that believes in that part of you. It did set me back quite a bit. It sort of set me back on that. Okay. Because he was like, oh my God, this is an amazing idea. It's, it's green, it's amazing energy. And then that was gone. So it was like, okay, so who have I got now that believes in the project just like he does? Yeah. And I've never really found anybody else, other than the builders that went out there a couple of years ago to get the plans and everything in place. So they've been building stuff in Bali. And so we all hope to reconvene to get this project finished. It's going to happen. Yeah.
Wow. So amazing project. Absolutely amazing to be doing that in Kenya. And so
it ended up, it's not a film school now. So it's we're working with the NGO. It's a community art space. Yeah. So it's an art space that is used for the community, so for schools and for anybody in the community to be able to, it's a sustainable project, so it's about kind of creating jobs, but also teaching kind of from a personal development point of view. We'll hopefully kind of train some yoga teachers, and the whole idea is we take people from creative field and take them out there to train people within the community to be able to teach craft, basically, and creative. Yeah.
So when you started this project, were you still working for the production company that you were in? And okay, and so this, you still had this feeling that something wasn't quite right. Is that right, in the company you were working for? So how did you alleviate that, or how did you satisfy that itch that was happening? It might not have been an itch, but it was still a feeling. But what did you do next?
What did I do next?
To transition?
So I always worked for myself in that business. So I was I worked freelance. So I worked for loads of different companies. What kept me going were the people, without any doubt. It was the people. I've got some of the most incredible friends, and my whole life really is so embedded in the community of the film and TV world. But what I did for myself, when I had children, I was still working a lot. But that was kind of the beginning of, as well, of, you know, who do I want to be in this world, and who do I want to be for my kids, you know? So that those questions kept kind of nagging at me, you know. So I actually, this was another big turning point, is I went to do my yoga teacher training.
Right. Okay.
Because I loved yoga. Really loved yoga. I loved how it made me feel. I loved the philosophy behind it. I loved, I just loved where it took me. So I wanted to sort of delve a bit deeper into that, because obviously I was thinking, I'm sitting on an edge here, and I need to sort of dig a little bit deeper. So I went and did my yoga teacher training, and that was life-changing for me. Yeah.
Life-changing in what way?
It started to really just really kind of started to ask myself the real questions, like, you know, who are you, and how do you want to show up? And, you know, it started to kind of bring up different layers that were inside that I had to deal with, you know. Different conditioning from growing up, you know, all that kind of stuff that started to kind of rise to the surface, where I was like, you know, starting to realize what was holding me back, and that this kind of deep desire of knowing that I wasn't on the right track. I started to kind of explore the whys around that. Right. I suppose that's what yoga did. Yeah. And has been very kind of close to me since. I still teach yoga. Right. It's a very big part of, you know, even with the work that I'm doing now, it's all encompassed in that as well. And just kind of working out that sort of truth for yourself.
Yeah. So you mentioned that it helped you uncover this deep desire within you, and gave a framework in which to do that. So where did it go after that? You had your yoga teacher training. Again, you're kind of learning more about yourself, asking questions like, who are you, and how do you want to show up? How do you want to show up in the world?
Yeah. So I remember finishing my yoga teacher training on the last day, and everyone's sitting in the circle talking about, you know, their experience doing the course and what they're going to do with the yoga and all that kind of stuff. And it's funny. I remember sitting there saying, I know that being a yoga teacher isn't the be all and end all for me. I know that that's something bigger than that. You know, I always was very in tune and intuitive in myself, but I never knew, you know, I was still kind of like flipping around and affected by life, you know, but I knew that being a yoga teacher, I was like, I love yoga, but just being a yoga teacher for me, and that's it, is not my purpose. I just knew that. So, but, so what happened after that?
Well, it's interesting.
I continued on and ignoring myself. I continued on myself.
Okay.
I used to drink quite a bit as well. That was another thing. I think I was
Mm-hmm.
quite a big drinker.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't not an alcoholic or anything like that, but I definitely had if I look back now, I probably didn't have the healthiest relationship with alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Funnily enough, I've married a recovered alcoholic.
Okay.
So he doesn't drink, but
Mm-hmm.
whether it's that as well, for me, that has kind of makes me think that I drink in an unhealthy way because I
Yeah.
live with someone who doesn't drink. Maybe I don't drink that
Yeah.
bad. I don't know. But whatever it is, I know for me, I was kind of, living a bit of a party lifestyle. So,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of came with the work.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
big hours, lots of fun, lots of drinking, lots of, long hours. So it was the
Mm-hmm.
way to sort of, relax and whatever, especially
Mm-hmm.
having kids and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. 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 Right.
You're just in survival mode, really. When you got
Mm-hmm.
young kids, you're just in. So your needs kind of go out the window a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you did yoga teacher training. You started asking questions about who you are and how do you want to show up in the world. You knew that you weren't necessarily. It was taking you towards your purpose, but with the job that you were doing and the freelancing you were doing, you didn't quite feel that you were living your purpose. Is that right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so what happened next? Because you were still in that freelance job and something was
Yeah.
changing.
Well, I think as well, going back to meeting my husband,
Mm-hmm.
so I met him around that same time when we did when I'd been out to Kenya to the
Mm-hmm.
art project. He's a writer. He's a novelist and a screenwriter.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a recovered alcoholic and drug addict. So when I met him, it was kind of like, I know when everybody says that they meet their soul life partner, but there was a real connection for us where I kind of felt like for the first time in my life, I'd met someone who really got me, who really
Mm-hmm.
understood who I was.
Yeah.
And through the process of being with him,
Yeah.
and I think that, he lives his passion 100%.
Right.
He is so committed and dedicated. I've just been writing about this actually, about the commitment, dedication when you want something and you know that it is your passion and where you want to head. To have that commitment and that dedication and to not waver in that, he has never ever done. He knows who he is 100%. He knows what makes him tick. He knows what he's here for, and he doesn't, he never questions that. So being with somebody like that, with my kind of like, oh no, I'm not living on the right, I know I'm not doing my thing, and I'm not doing my thing, and then living with someone who is totally doing their thing is making it even bark. The further it, we would you'd go on, it was just became barking. It was like,
right.
It was just so obvious that I needed to do something about it. So yeah, that took a little while for me to just really peel away the labels and the judgments that we put on ourselves in how we think we need to be in the world.
Yeah.
As opposed to how you just want to be in the world. So I wouldn't have thought I would have carried many of those because I've always, this goes into another one, always been told that, I swim against the grain or I swim against the tide, as my dad used to tell me, you never do anything the same as everybody else. You always swim against the tide or, And so for me, I was like, thought I was quite open-minded in the sense that I did always do what I wanted to do. But underlying, there are those layers like the onion, that you have to kind of peel away the judgments and the labels and all the things that you feel like you should be doing to get to the core of what you want to be doing. So that was me. My husband obviously had already got there. He knew, he knows his passion. But for me, I had to kind of unravel the conditioning to get to the core of what I should be doing. So that obviously came out in loads of different ways. Whether it was the drinking, the anxiety, just sort of being a little bit disconnected. I was completely disconnected from myself.
Right.
And then just before I kind of left, I went into business. I'd been working with a director for about 3 or 4 years, and we went into business together, and we put quite a lot of money through the business in the first year. And we'd traveled around the place and done some fantastic jobs. And that was when my moment was, it's like I've made loads of money and I'm still not happy. The anxiety in my body and the need to seek and explore, and not necessarily within that industry anymore. It was just like, I just need to get out of here. I just need to step out of this and not go back, and really kind of live this dream life on my purpose that I've been kind of knowing that's inside me for a long time, and just step into it and do it and trust that it's all going to work out.
So what was the trigger for you to say, right, I'm stepping out of this, that's it? Because there'll be a lot of people watching and listening that will think, yeah, I could just carry on with my job. And like you said, you had travel perks, you had money coming in, you were working with good people, but there was something that wasn't right. But then something triggered you to actually take action. And I think a lot of people will go through life not doing that. So what was the inspiration behind you making that step?
Well, I think, if you're in tune with your body in any way, your body's going to tell you that you need to make changes. You're getting sick, you got anxiety, you've got, all these kind of things that are happening in your life that are not making you feel great. Now, whether you think going out and partying is making you feel great, if you're going out and partying and drinking and doing that all the time, then you're suppressing something else,
Yeah.
If there's anxiety in your body, now for me, I mean, obviously it comes from all different types but anxiety is a way of telling you that you have something in your body that you need to deal with. There's something, and there can be layers of all conditioning, as I said, right back to from when you're a child. It could be your current situation. It could be only you know that yourself. But it is very much in your body, I think.
Yeah.
And for me, that's what was happening within my body. It was just like this. I could feel it. I could just feel it in my gut. And I decided to go and do the ayahuasca ceremony. That was the crunch. So my husband had done one of those a few years, like five, I think it was 7 years ago now. And I wasn't really interested. I'd done a lot of personal development stuff. After my yoga teacher training, I'd sort of, it's gone to see different healers, and I've always been really fascinated in all of that. I think if you are on a quest to make changes, it is absolutely imperative that you do that. You find your support people, you find your healers, you find whatever works for you, and you dig deep, you hit it head on, and you go, right, I need to get through to the other side, and just make sure that you've got those people there to support you through it. So I had that kind of crew of people, I had different, even just going to get a massage or doing your yoga or chatting to your yoga teacher, or, those kind of mentors or people in your life. I'd sort of had those for a while. So I'd been kind of working on that and really kind of pushing through and sorting my shit out, basically.
Yeah.
And just one morning I woke up and was like, I'm going to go and do an ayahuasca ceremony. For whatever reason, something happened where I was like, just going to go and do it.
Yeah.
And I did that. And that was life-changing, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where were you when you did it, and tell me about the experience of that.
So I had been, so I was in this business. We had a job, and you know me, I don't like to mention brand names, so I'm not going to.
Yeah, sure.
But I can tell you it was an Olympic campaign for a brand. And we had a job that was in India, and it was on and it was off, it was on, it was off, it was on, it was off. So I had booked this ayahuasca ceremony, and it was kind of like, you know, it was months away, really. And in my mind, I was like, I can never do anything. You know, I can never, my life is controlled by this industry. I cannot go anywhere. I can't do anything. I book a weekend and that gets sideswiped. It's like, and so when I booked that, I was like, I'm doing that. I don't care. I'm doing it. And that's just how it is. That was in my mind. I'm going on it, and no one's stopping me. So I booked it. And as we were kind of getting closer to that weekend, this job in India was on, off, on, off, on, off. And I think it was like maybe the Wednesday. So I was going on the Friday. I was in Melbourne. I was going on the Friday. And I think on the Wednesday, I got a phone call from the agency producer saying that the job was on. And then we had to go to India on the Tuesday or the Wednesday the following week. So that is when you're kind of like running a job in India. It's it's a lot of work that's going into that. And I had done a fair bit beforehand. So we'd had some companies on standby and all that kind of stuff. But I was like, okay, this was my moment where I was like, I can either drop this weekend and go back into my old pattern of saying, yep, okay, anything, I'll do anything. Or I can say, I'm going away on my weekend. And I did that. I said, I'm not stopping this weekend. I'm going to go on this weekend because I've had it booked for ages and I really need to do this. And so anyway, luckily enough, the director that I was working with was very supportive, and he went a day earlier, but I kind of did all the job, everything that I needed to do, and I drove down to this ceremony on a Friday. I got back on the Monday, and during the ceremony, it was just, quite a, I was very nervous about it because I'd heard all different things. And during the ceremony, it was probably one of the most nurturing experiences of my life, but the most, the biggest kind of slap in the face I probably had ever had in my life as well.
Right.
I found out what my issue was. You know? I went there with a very clear intention, and came out with went in with a certain perspective on life, and came out with obviously the same person with a perspective, but I saw everything very differently. So I came home, I got on a plane the next day, and I flew to India. And after that experience, and obviously it takes you into a whole other realm. I mean, it's like you're not even there, not in this world. And I went to India, and we went out to the location of where we were filming, which was a slum in Mumbai. And it was that moment, I still remember it, getting out of the car, just coming out of this ayahuasca experience with this whole kind of new perception of going, okay, I know what my problem is. I'm not listening to myself. I'm not loving myself. I'm not honoring who I am as a person.
Right.
And walking into the slum, and standing there, just seeing all these amazing, beautiful people. And that was my moment where I was like, I can't do this. Like, I just can't do this. I can't be this person anymore. I want to work with these people. I want to work for the better good of these people. I don't want to work in here with a brand, a multi-billion brand in this slum to sell what it was we were selling. Now, I don't directly sell that stuff, but I it's not like the client and my responsibility or anything like that, but just the very act of me being there and being a part of that team and, producing that commercial, it just made me go, that's it. I can't do this. And that was my moment.
Wow.
So I got through the job and it was great. And I came back to Melbourne and my business partner and I weren't seeing eye to eye, really, very much. Maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know. We'd worked a lot that year. It was just, we were at burnout mode, really. And I just can't do this anymore. So I left. I left. And then 8 weeks later, my husband, my kids and I were on a plane and we came to Ireland, and our whole life has changed ever since.
Wow.
So every month, every week, every month, every year has just been a building block of getting, being who I am and being real with what I do, and never, ever, ever looking back, ever.
Yeah.
Like I'm 100% on the right path now, and I am doing a job that I love, and my husband and I have got our projects are in development. We've got, everything's just aligned, and it's kind of,
Amazing. What transformation and big decisions that you've made from within. And it sounds like you had this network of people, healers, massage, yoga teacher training, like all of these things to help you to unravel all this conditioning that you had in your life to start to work out, well, what is my passion? What is my purpose? And you're, being inspired by your husband to see actually someone here has a real passion for what they do, and they're very, very purposeful, and they are dedicated and unwavering. And that gave you the possibility, that made you gave you the belief that actually, well, he's doing this, well, maybe I can do this, and I can work towards that. And the unraveling was magical into ayahuasca, but then everything else unfolded after that as well. So wow, that's an amazing structure as well. Not necessarily people will follow every step, but it's, there is actually a process of transitioning from, not knowing what my passion is or what I should be doing in this world with all the experience I have, to now you're doing it. But it's not a case of being stuck of, I can't find my passion, it's not possible. Some people are passionate and some people aren't. Actually, you went through that process. So that's fascinating. And so,
I think if you have that feeling inside you, which a lot of people do, that's your calling card. That's the calling card that you have to listen to. Because if you don't listen to that, that's where I think you end up down in the spiral of getting depressed and, ending up on the wrong path. Whether it's, I shouldn't say it's the wrong path, it's never the wrong path, but you just end up kind of spiraling in a direction that you don't want to be in, and it's 10 times harder to get out. But I think also that's almost like the learning part of the journey as well, is being able to do that for other people. Like, for example, me working with other people, me going through that experience is only going to help me with, work with other people to be able to do that for them as well, from a creative point of view. The thing is, with being with my husband as well, I knew, just from a story point of view, like that's where my story development sort of really grew, because we used to work, and I never really thought that I had that, but he used to say, you're amazing with story and structure, and I'd go, no, I'm not at all. But so I really got to develop so many skills, creative skills, within the process of working with him as well, which also really helped me to realize that, oh, hang on a minute, I'm really can be doing so much more here. And just my brain, which I think I was saying to you just before, my brain, it's almost like there was a part of my brain that had shriveled and I wasn't using it. I was like, I
Right.
started to feel stupid, you know. It's like I didn't know what was going on in the world. It's not even any time to read a newspaper. You know, there was no time. You just end up in this little film bubble. And, you know,
Yeah.
I wasn't really aware of kind of what was going on in the world or anything like that. And, you know, I could feel that in me. It was like I needed to fill myself up with knowledge and information. And I mean, and during all of that, I forgot to tell you that I studied nutrition as well.
Right. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, so that sort of became a part of, you know, I don't know, just really anchoring into, I don't know, the realness of who we are as human beings and how we should really look after ourselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
you got to Ireland with your family, with your husband, and you basically said goodbye to that previous career, or certainly, you know, working with brands. So, you know, a lot of people will be thinking, wow, if I just quit my job and move to a different country, I don't know what I'd do. Like, how did you know, like, what to do? Did you have a plan, or like, what was going on in your mind?
Obviously my husband's from here and he has written a novel and we sort of came over here to make that into a film. So
okay.
that was which we're still in development on, and I've got a couple of other projects over here in development in the meantime of all of that. So that was, you know, that's kind of what we thought we'd do when we got here, kind of thing. This actually was really interesting because when I arrived, I got offered a job on a film doing extras casting, which was interesting for a big film in Dublin. I think it was like 1,000 extras or something I had to find. I'd only been here for a few weeks. I didn't know anybody. Someone asked whether I'd do the job. I was like, it sounds like hell to me. But I kind of found that every time I kind of left the business to have a break, it would always come back. I would always get these little dangling kind of carrots going, you sure you don't want to, you know, it'd be a great way to meet some people. And I was like, no, I just don't want to do it. So after I'd said no, I thought maybe I should do it because I get to meet some people and blah, blah, blah. So I did that job and it was, you know, there I was again working around the clock, absolutely exhausted, but I worked with a great crew of people. I got to meet so many people. As I said, there were 1,000 extras or something I had to find on my own. I got to, you know, know a lot of the industry here. So that was kind of good, but I still knew I was like, I'm back in it again. You know, the pattern was repeating. I was like, here I am again. It's like I'd never been an extras casting person before, but I was, you know, I was sort of like, you know, it's not what I wanted to do or anything. So then I did a couple of ads as well. I actually did a couple of TV commercials, and I can honestly say that on both those commercials, I cried my eyes out.
Oh wow! Okay.
I don't want to be doing this. What am I doing to myself? So it was really like stepping back into the pattern, you know, and really that's what that was about. It was realizing that I'm falling back into the fear of falling back into what I know to make money because I'm too kind of, is it scared the word or whatever, to step into that next part of who I needed to be. So that was a really kind of important part, I think, of the process. But in the meantime of that, I was developing what I'm doing now. So I always knew that I had this, you know, there were the podcasts and there was the writing and there was the blogging and there was the, you know, all the retreats and all the stuff that I wanted to do. So I'd started working on that pretty much. I'd kind of almost started working on that before I'd left my business. I knew that was in the back of my mind. I always knew that it was there, that that's what I wanted to do. But it was, you know, it was getting there sort of thing. So, so I just started developing that, and then we moved.
And what is that called, by the way? This kind of company or project you're working on now?
The Creative Producer.
The Creative Producer. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is that all about?
Well, so the creative producer is about helping or working with people to execute creative stories from an ethical point of view. So there we go. It's everything that I was doing that I didn't like. So it's about helping people to kind of bring their stories to life through ethical creative expression. So that's what it is. So if it's you want to develop a film, a documentary idea, if you want to write a book, if you any kind of creative project that you have, I've put a program together to help people to execute that. So I'm using my producing skills and my personal development skills and all that kind of stuff to help people bring their creative projects to life. So yeah, so that's kind of so I'm working with people at the moment that are writing books, that are supporting their businesses, telling their stories. I'm working with I'm hoping this guy comes on. He's a refugee from Nigeria who's written his story into a film about his journey traveling from Nigeria across the African deserts into Italy and then over to Dublin. So I'm kind of looking for really, I don't want to use the word edgy, but stories where people have this kind of desire to really tell the world their story to help really bring change and impact from an ethical point of view to make the world a better place, basically.
So, where is that inspiration from for you to focus on that, this ethical point of view and finding stories to share with the world? Like what's inspired you to do that from within?
So it's interesting because, if I connect the dots back, like pre-doing work experience and go back into being a child, maybe my earliest memory of, because I've kind of really tried to explore this quite deeply.
Yeah.
What is that? And, was it the way I was, brought up? Did something happen to me as a kid? I'm asking all these kind of questions. But I remember very specifically being a younger child, always having this kind of seeking, I suppose, information or an understanding about what life was about. And no one could ever give me the answer. I could never get the answer at that age. And then I remember doing the 40-hour famine when I was around that age, and seeing, I think at the time there was the famine in Ethiopia was happening, and seeing the children, just seeing kids that had, no food, were dying, had no water. And here we were, here I was as an 8-year-old doing the 40-hour famine, going around to people, not eating for 48 hours, asking people to sponsor me. And it just never made any sense to me. I was like, this is weird. This is quite weird. Like, how can the world be that unbalanced, How can it be that unbalanced?
Yeah.
That always kind of sat with me. But I do think it's just how I came into this world, if I'm really to be honest. I think I came into this world with that kind of a mind, I was always really fascinated by us being human beings on Earth and wondering kind of like what was on other planets and thinking that we couldn't be the only people that lived in this world. So I always had this kind of, seeking kind of mentality. And then I suppose kind of growing up, not really being in a family that could really answer any of those questions, and them thinking that I was quite strange and different, probably helped with all of that as well. That sort of like, so now I just sit here kind of wanting to help people to not feel that they are, that they're not different, that their voice does matter, and what they think is real and can be something, and you actually help other people and inspire other people by doing that. So
okay. And one in terms of like it sounds like you're really following your passion, and it stems back from your childhood, this desire to help people, and I guess that's why you might have taken on that project in Kenya. When you did it, it kind of stems from this inner desire to help people less fortunate, and with your own skills. What would you say to people that do want to make a difference to the world, and they want to leave their maybe their career or a business that they've been running to do something they're passionate about? What would you say to them? How do you find that balance between earning money that you're happy with, and also giving back? Or can you do both at the same time? Do you do projects that might be kind of more commercially attractive, but then balance that with ones that aren't, that you're more passionate about? Or do you combine the two, or are you just focused on passion now?
I think like taking, money to me is just an energy exchange. So it doesn't have a value to me really. And I think that it's really about kind of digging deep into who you are and how you want to show up in the world, like finding out what your passion is. And I think once you kind of find that part of yourself, then work isn't work, money isn't money. And all of that kind of falls into place, if that makes sense. I mean, obviously we all need to work and we all need to make a living. But I believe that if people are watching this and they're sitting and watching it for a reason, that's the other thing. People are going to be watching this because they're actually asking themselves all the same questions. Otherwise, they wouldn't be watching this.
Yeah.
So if you're asking yourself those questions, then that is that's your calling, if you like, to start investigating deeper into who you are, or investigating what this is, or what this calling is that you're having, to step into that. Otherwise you wouldn't. None of them would be here watching this. That's what I think.
Yeah.
So if you're at that point, then just go for it. Just find a way and do it. And if it means kind of, wherever you're at, people are at all different. Some people are ready to take that plunge, like I was, just ready to go, okay, I'm going to change everything and do it, and just trust. That's the other thing, is trusting. Leap and the net will appear, as they say, and it does. And what actually happens when you do that is it creates space. Everybody hears this all the time, but it creates space for the stuff that you really want to do. So if you're not doing that and you're in this kind of like this job that you don't like and you're working loads of hours, well, the fear's there because, you think, how on earth is this ever going to fit in my life? Well, it's going to fit in your life because you're going to make space for it. But it's never going to fit into your life if you don't make space for it. So you just have to trust, listen to your inner calling. I call it the inner artist, or the inner, your intuition, and just trust that it's all going to work out. Just do it.
Yeah. And what can you tell me a little bit about some of the projects that you're working on now, and also how people can get in touch with you if they want to work with you or find out more about you?
Yeah. So I'm running at the moment a couple of different programs. I can work with people on for 12 months to bring a project of theirs to fruition. So first 8 weeks, or I can do 8 weeks. Some people just start with 8 weeks, or they go to the 12 months. So the 8 weeks is really what I call crystallizing your vision. So it's working out what the big dreams are, what your goals are, what your intentions are, what it is that you want, what impact do you want to bring, and then we look at the projects attached to that. So I think it's really important to look at the bigger picture first, to get really kind of get a very clear picture, to be sure-footed in what it is that you want to do before you kind of start executing projects. And it gets us to know each other as well. And I think, it just helps to sort of solidify that relationship and solidify what you're doing. And so I understand what you're doing, so we can be really kind of sure-footed in kind of setting a plan out. So then the next sort of rest of the 12 months is working on that plan to kind of make it happen. So it'll be different for everyone because everyone's got a different project. And then if you do want to do, if you want websites, marketing, all that kind of stuff, I work in conjunction with marketing specialist. So we can kind of, do websites and like branding and all that kind of stuff for you. And then, obviously at the end of the 12 months, it's about, kind of bringing that project to market. So depending again on what the project is depending on how it's packaged and how we kind of bring it to market. So that's the one program. And then I've got my big program, which is working with on retreats. So it's taking a small group, probably no more than 10, maybe 12, maybe 10 people away on a retreat for 2 weeks, where I bring industry professionals from the creative industries on the retreat. But those retreats will have yoga, it'll be good food. It's a full immersive, get yourself all zinged up to be kind of like, feeling good about yourself and really getting crystal clear. So it's almost doing that 8 weeks and getting really crystal clear on your project and workshopping it with industry professionals to be really, to really kind of bolster the vision that you have. And then getting a plan in place to execute it. But that includes all the marketing, it includes the marketing, includes the websites, it includes all that kind of stuff. So that's a whole kind of package,
Wow.
a full package where I get to really kind of, I get to really kind of become a part of the process, become a part of that process with you. So it's, some people might be writing a book and become an advocate for something and create some kind of a campaign, or there might be someone who wants to really develop a film idea and, get that packaged to go to market, or it might be a documentary, or it might be someone who's got like a creative business where they want to maybe bring change through doing global crazy art installations or something like that. It can be anything. I think for me it's about be bold, be different, and just go for it. And it's about, I want to support those people to be able to do that. So that's,
and how can people get in touch with you, Holli, if they have a creative idea, or if they're thinking about writing a book, or maybe getting something produced, a film perhaps, but they just don't know a structure or a plan or how to do it, but they've got the idea in their head. How do they get in touch with you?
So my website's going to be live in a couple of weeks. So it's when it is live, it's thecreativeproducer.com. And you can email me at holli@thecreativeproducer.com. And then I've got my Facebook page, which is The Creative Producer. So
awesome. And there's a great group in there actually. I've chatted to a few people in your group, a really, really active group, and some really kind of inspirational people with lots of different projects that they're working on and ideas and different backgrounds, artists, writers, and actually, part of this whole thing is kind of starting Burn Within is to meet inspiring people and get inspired by them, and there's lots of people in the group that I've started, but in your group as well. I think surrounding yourself with those kind of people, it really kind of helps you to inject passion into your and start to uncover purpose as well. Just like you had with your husband, but surrounding yourself with more of these people really helps. I think helps me definitely.
Yeah, well, it's that whole kind of saying, isn't it? Like, find your tribe. And I think that is so important to, teaming up with like-minded people And once you do that, I think everything just starts to take off, because you're in your right place. But for people that do want to check it out and are a little bit kind of unsure about it all and how's all this work, they can come into the Creative Engine Room, which is the members group. Yeah. And which is where you introduced yourself the other day, which is amazing. And that'll be a group that I kind of help people through their different creative processes and journeys to be able to get different projects off the ground. Obviously not working in the capacity that I can from a 12-month point of view, but it's just tips and tricks and things like that to share, not only from me but from other people as well that want to share their creative story or ideas or struggles or whatever it is, so people can come into that group as well. Yeah.
My final question, Holly, if you were to look back on your whole life and up to this point of where you are, I would say that you're burning within now. You're passionate about what you do. You have a real purpose behind your work. What would you say is the one thing that's helped you to switch to burn within?
Ooh, one thing.
Okay. One really important thing that's really made a big difference to switch that light on inside.
Can I have two?
Because it's you, Holly, we'll do that. Yes. Okay.
I think definitely trusting your intuition and meditation and making that a daily practice. Have a daily practice where you get up, you connect with yourself, and you put it out to the universe what it is that you want, and you ask for it.
Right.
Because if you ask for it, it comes. And it does, because I've done it.
Yeah.
But you've got to, it has to be a daily practice, and you have to be very clear, and you have to, and ask for it, and just trust it. That would be one. And then to find support. Absolutely, without a doubt. Have support and connect yourself with like-minded people.
Amazing tips. Two amazing tips. Wow. It's very timely, actually. I'm off tomorrow to do a 10-day Vipassana retreat.
You are.
Lots of meditation. And I've been reading this book, actually, the Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer, and it's the impact that meditation's had on his life and all of the opportunities that have come just by listening to himself, and you're listening to yourself. But then also, surrounding with the right people. I think that's absolutely key. So, wow. Thank you so much. Sorry.
No, I was just saying, I can honestly say that I've created more in my life by doing less than ever. Like removing myself away, giving myself time to meditate, removing myself away from the busyness. I've been able to create more than I ever have before, which is interesting.
It's interesting, and it's comforting to know that actually, a lot of people might be really stressed out, and can I take on more work, and how can I, do what I want to do? But taking time out, or doing less, and creating space in your mind and listening to yourself is actually, it does work. That's really inspiring to hear. So thank you so much, Holly, I love your story, and I just love speaking to you, to be honest. You're a very genuine person, and so authentic in terms of what you do, and bringing so much passion and just a lot of talent as well from the years in your industry, and doing and using it to help people. And that's what I really admire about you. So thank you for taking the time, and obviously this is going to be a recording that I'll share, and feel free to share with your network as well. And so much learning. I've written some notes, so I'm going to try and collate that after my Vipassana and share some of that with you and with some of your audience as well.
Oh, brilliant. Come into the engine room and share your experience.
Definitely. Yeah, for sure.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time. Yeah, thanks,
Worries,
Holli.
Matt. I really appreciate it. It's always great chatting with you. So thank you.
Yeah. See you soon. Thank you.
Bye. See you later.